everyone. Welcome to DPW Parks and Recs committee meeting for September 25th. First thing in order, I need to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Ms. Wood, Mr. Frazier, Ms. Frazier, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Under new business, I'm going to move right into Jeff and let him take over on some of the stuff that we got on the agenda for parks.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I do have Justin Gagno here from Saratoga North Creek, if you'd like to give a railroad update.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I want to start off with an update for our fall season. We're getting right into the thick of it, and the leaves are changing out there, and everybody's traveling into our neck of the woods. Right now, our ticket sales are up around 4,000. That's for pre-reservations. This is compared to a number of 6,000 last October, but we aren't even in October yet, so there's still plenty of room to grow. We received the okay from this committee back in June, I believe, to go ahead and do the Pumpkin Patch Express in place of Day Out with Thomas. We're moving forward with that, and we should be having everything finalized by the end of the month, and tickets will go live on October 1st. The Pumpkin Patch Express is going to piggyback on our normal train between Saratoga and North Creek. The event will take place in the town of North Creek. We've been communicating with business owners to set up a trick-or-treat trail to tie the community into the event. We'll also be offering hay rides, pony rides. We're going to have about 6 or 8 local vendors there with, crafts and maple syrup and the like. And ticket sales for the last time that we did this in 2012 were about 600 passengers for the weekend. So we're anticipating the event this year to be similar to 2012. This coming weekend, the North End Local is going to start up again between Thurman and North Creek, and that's going to run for the next 3 weekends, and it will terminate on Columbus Day weekend. That'll be its final trips. The North End Local was a success this year. We will be doing it again next year. And also new to this year, we've been working with Warren County Tourism for the moving passengers for the Warrensburg garage sale. This year we tried to set it into our normal train out of Saratoga, and we sold out on both days. So it's been very successful considering it's its first year, and it hasn't received a whole, it's the first time we're doing it. So this is a good response, and there's no reason to think why we wouldn't be doing it again next year and probably be making it bigger. Polar Express preseason ticket sales have topped over 7,000 so far. That is excellent over last year, and we are still in the preseason. Diamond class tickets are selling out the fastest. Still plenty of room in all the other classes, though. Our consist this year is going to have capacity for around 560 people. This is compared to 350 people last year. We are bringing in a third dome car for this event for the added capacity, and we're also putting our double-decker high-capacity coaches back into service for this event as well. Those have received extensive upgrades to the HVA systems to somewhere to the tune of around $20,000. So we're excited to get those back into service. The big news that I have today is the freight. We did close on a contract for 8,000 tons that's going to move starting next week between Tahawus and Taunton, Massachusetts. I don't know if it's Taunton or Towton. I can't pronounce their town, but they can't pronounce the word Tahawus either. So 2,000 tons are going to move by rail from Tahawus all the way to Taunton, and 6,000 tons are going to move by rail down to Corinth to be transloaded onto a truck, to be transloaded onto a barge, and that barge will go to a rail transfer facility at Fall River, Massachusetts. This is going to take place starting next week, and it will move into November. This isn't the big contract that we are working on and that we are still working on, but this is the smaller contract that I was talking about, and this is actually timing-wise, this is excellent because this kind of allows us to walk before we run with this thing. Paul Mitchell, as we speak, is working on the loadout facility up at Tahaz. Once that's completed, it will be, available for use for any future contracts. There's no other modifications that will be required. Basically, this is a really great thing. Like I said, allows us to walk before we can run, but we are moving freight, and this will exhibit to everybody in the rest of the world that we can move stone out of Tahaz. So, that's all I have.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Anyone have any questions?
There was talk not too long ago about moving wood products,
Mhm.
particularly logs. I don't know how far that got within your organization. I know there were some loggers that have approached me that are interested in it.
Okay.
I just wonder if that's been backburnered or if they're still pursuing that kind of freight haulage.
We are still pursuing that. It was backburnered basically because the numbers that, with the companies that we were dealing with at the time, the places that they were shipping to, the numbers weren't working to ship by rail. So that's why it didn't go any further than what it did. Obviously, the more you increase the commodity, the better rail shipment becomes. If your commodity is I'll say at the same level as to the capacity that a truck could handle, it's tough to compete with that market. But once you get out of the realm of what a trucking company could typically handle in terms of capacity, that's when rail becomes a better option. So if there's any loggers that do still have an interest, other than the ones that we've spoken to already, I would absolutely love to sit down with them.
Well, I seem to recall some discussion of the trucks intercepting the train somewhere, whether it's up towards, somewhere up in that direction, and offloading onto the rail transport from the logging trucks. I just wondered how that was going. You're still obviously somewhat interested in it.
We're still interested in it. We still communicate with both of the companies that we were speaking to previously. It's just the numbers just aren't there yet.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, with that, we'll move on, Jeff. Number one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. The first resolution request is on page 1. This is to authorize an agreement between Warren County and the Warren Washington Association for Mental Health. You'll see on page 2 a letter we received from this organization. They wish to use a portion of the bike path right away to place a temporary structure for gardening. The county has entered into agreements like this in the past. We have a few abutters to the bike path that are occupying portions of the county right away through agreement. There is a minimum fee of $50 for the size that they're requesting. They would pay that each year. Their intent is to place the structure as soon as possible this fall so they can extend their growing season and their gardening season with their participants there at that organization.
Anyone would like to make a motion? Simmons? I think I have one. Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Chairman?
Just very quickly, this is a great project. These are folks that are in the mental health recovery program. I've looked at the plot. It's a temporary facility. It's actually in Amy Gerard's ward, okay? But Danny has looked at it, I've looked at it, and it is simple and innocuous use. But the people that use these gardens, they're just very, very excited about what they do. They see a result, and they feel a sense of belonging. So I just think it's a great program. We appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff, are there insurance requirements to go along with these, and can they meet those requirements, as far as you know?
Yes, as far as I know, yes.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
If no other questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Passed.
Okay, the next resolution request is on page 5. This is a simple authorization to accept a donation. We were contacted up at Up Yonder Farm by RPI and specifically the Darren Freshwater Institute. They have a number of microscopes, 13 to be exact, that they no longer have use of, and they have donated them to Up Yonder Farm. So this resolution would just accept that donation.
Mr. Taylor? Mr. Conover? Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed.
Okay, next on the agenda, I have a discussion regarding a request to authorize dogs on the bikeway. And we have Mr. Sensor Lee here again to approach the committee on that. I'd like to recognize him.
Mr. Sensley, would you like to go up to the podium and...
Good morning. Fred Sensor Lee is my name, and a couple of Board of Supervisor meetings ago, I brought this out and passed out a flyer for trying to change the ordinance to allow dogs on the bikeway. I'll open by saying that Warren County Bikeway is the only bikeway from the bottom of Westchester County to Maine that doesn't allow dogs on the bikeway. So I brought some friends with me for support this time. And it's very simple. I've been on the bike trail for about 3 years, and there are these signs up, no dogs allowed, strictly enforced. I'd like those signs to come down and Warren County Bikeway be able to have dogs on the bikeway. Now, if we take a look at all the other bikeways from Westchester to Maine, we have to assume that they figured it out. So the reason I'm here today is to get this committee to vote that there'll be a change of the ordinance, and then have the particulars gone through to make it work for our bikeway. Also, excuse me, just recently, we had a major tragedy in New York. And when I made my presentation to Mr. Marino, I also addressed the issue of cycles going too fast on the bikeway. It's a family bikeway. It's not a motor trend bikeway. So I would like the Committee on Cycling to take a look at figuring out how to make... There must be sections of the bikeway where you could go fast, designated sections. But if somebody hits somebody, it's going to be terrible. So I think the Cycling Committee could take a look at that and make some recommendations. Maybe bikers have to have little bells or horns or something like that. I also want to say that I've been on the front cover of Rails to Trails Conservancy magazine for two months in a row for my dedication to cycling in the bikeway. So I'm asking this committee to take a poll vote right now to make the Warren County Bike Trail dog friendly. I did research on this project for over a month with the assistance of Kevin Rogan, the chief analyst researcher at the Crandall Library. At first, we took it up to the feeder canal, including Warren County Bikeway. But then I said, well, that's not good enough, because if I'm going to stand up to make a statement, I want it to be more comprehensive. So we took it from the feeder canal to Maine. And there's piles of papers that are down in my car that I forgot to bring up, but I'll submit to the committee if necessary. There is no bikeway from the bottom of Westchester County to the state of Maine that does not allow dogs on the bikeway. So is it my position to ask for a hand vote? Chair.
Well, before we vote on it, I'd like to get some opinions and discussion by our committee.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Taylor?
I just don't remember seeing signs on the bikeway that says no dogs, but I guess I'd like to ask, is that something that was recently put up? Has it been in existence since we started the bikeway? And what's the reason that we didn't want dogs on it?
Yeah, I wondered that myself.
Jeff, you wanna answer that?
To my knowledge, I don't think they've ever been allowed on the bikeway, and the concerns were, safety and also, just the nuisance of, any owners that didn't clean up after their dogs. That's my understanding, is that that's always been the case on the bike path. The signs, although the signs might have been updated or, replaced if they were faded, the signs have always existed, at least since I've been in DPW.
And I should add to that, also that I interviewed every single animal, control person from Monroe County all the way up to Lake George, and there has never been one incident of a dog biting a kid, a person, or a biker. In Muse, the only issue with a dog was, that is down on the Zim Smith bike trail, when a horse got on the bike trail and the dog barked. That's the only incident that I know of. And the full-time game ward animal control person in Queensbury is the most expertise on this subject. And the ASPCA, who's in charge of Glens Falls, South Glens Falls, Queensbury, etc., there has never been one incident of a dog having a confrontation with a person or a biker or an accident as a result of that. And again, I'll reiterate, this is the only bike trail from Westchester County to Maine that doesn't allow bikes. One of the issues that was brought up in the last meeting here was about poop and picking it up and whatever. We have an ordinance in the city too, in every city, where you have to pick up after your dog. You can't be responsible for someone who might not do that, but most of the people will do that. They are responsible. There are dogs on the bikeway every single day from dawn to dusk, and people have their bags and they pick it up. A good thing about it is that the feeder canal people and Queensbury supply biodegradable pickup bags, a plastic bag. Some people will leave it in the woods. They won't take it back. But that's a human condition. We can't have a rule that the human condition is accepted as part of. People will do things. Because that came up, I think, the gentleman from Lake George brought that up in one of the, I thought I'd talk about the poop for a minute.
All right, Mr. I want to hear from our attorney, and there might be a couple other questions, so I'm not cutting you off.
No, I
More
understand.
information out on here.
I'm concerned about speeding too, though.
Mr. Chairman, I think that the committee would be well advised to, before you take any vote, poll vote, whatever you want to call it, I think the committee would be well advised to sort of step back and take a look at this. A couple of thoughts come to mind for me. Number one, always as the attorney, I'm considering liability. I think we have someone at Rosen Kiernan, our insurance consultant, who we should be hearing from on this. What is their view? Are we opening ourselves up to liability? Are we not opening ourselves up to liability? What's the cost-benefit analysis that they would see? I also think that we have the benefit in Warren County of having a rather organized cycling community, and I think the committee ought to consider reaching out to them as well. The bike path is a treasure. I love it. I cycle on it on days, like many other cyclists, on days when there's little foot traffic, I go very fast. But on days, particularly around the holidays, the summer holidays, Memorial Day, 4th of July, anybody who uses that bike path, it warms your heart to see the families out there with the little kids riding the bikes, walking around, doing all that. So I think there's a lot of factors that have to be considered here when you're actually going to sanction or approve, you know, dogs on a bike path. And I just think it's too early in your review, from my perspective, to consider taking a poll vote before you have all the information and carefully consider this.
I'm gonna say that the other counties, the other bike trails from here to Maine also have attorneys for the county and insurance companies. And I think it would be an easy task for someone to ask them how they handle it. Because if all of them have it, then you know there's some kind of way that they figured it out. That's number one. Then I'd have to ask you, Martin, have you ever seen a dog on the bikeway while you were driving along?
Can't say that I have.
Oh, okay.
Can't say that I haven't. But you know, I have
Okay,
seen
Charles
a lot of little children out there. And that would concern me. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying
It's a good idea to check the insurance.
If I could finish, I
Sure.
would just advise the committee that I think they should carefully consider this before they're asked to take a poll vote. That's all.
Okay,
Mr.
then
Senator,
I
wait,
suggest that, well, whoever our insurance company is might get in touch with other you know, states and find out how they handle it. Vermont would be a good place to go.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, one of the things about our consultants, our insurance consultants, is they're also consultants to many other counties. So I had that in mind when I was making that recommendation.
All right, let's get on with a couple more. I think Ms. Sims, you had your hand up?
I would agree with, that we should take our attorney's advice, that there's several concerns,
All right.
that are raised in mine.
Mr. Dickinson, I think you had your hand up?
Well, yeah, based on what Martin said, I'd like to table it. I also can't, in my mind, picture Martin going really fast on a bike.
You should see how fast
It's
that-
downhill.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Ms. Wood, I think you had your hand up?
I was gonna make a motion to table this until such time as that Martin or whoever the appropriate people are have a chance to speak with our insurance consultants, maybe gather some more information and come back so that we can make a more informed decision, but I think Dennis has beat me to the punch this morning.
So I think all right,
Just
Mr.
before we
Sobel.
table it, should we not recommend this to the Bike Safety Committee
Well,
first?
that's what, that'll be part of,
Is that gonna be part of it? Okay.
checking into a couple of things, yes.
Just a quick observation. I use the bike path, and I would say two things. Bikers, some bikers go fast, but I found bikers to be very courteous, okay? I always get on your left, on your right type thing. Dogs, currently, I see dogs on the path, and I see people, with their leash dogs, very well mannered, dogs under control. Practical reality is, dogs do walk on the path. Like, both components I found to be very courteous, very under control. I think the sheriff's, policy, as it relates to, dogs on the bike path, I've been told, he said, look, I'm a busy guy, if I get a call, I respond. I do not actively enforce the ordinance as it relates to dogs on the dog path. So, the signs have been there forever, so it's, but, my point is, I think there are dogs on the path currently. Dogs that are
true.
dogs that are under control, good people. Bikers the same way, so.
What is kind of upsetting to me, just visually, I'm one of those artists, I don't know. When I see the sign that says, "No dogs allowed, strictly enforced," a little kid was asking its mother one day when I was on the bike trail there, and said, well, what does that mean, strictly enforced? You know, I felt the kid was intimidated by it, and so I would ask the Public Works Department to tear down those signs, because they are ineffective. The gentleman just said dogs are on the bikeway. Anybody else who has biked on the bikeway knows there are dogs on the bikeway. And I'm
Fred,
just gonna say,
Fred, we gotta move along.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, I'm not
I'm
trying
not
to interrupt.
advocating for it, I'm just
But
making
I
a
think
closing
1 month,
statement.
1 month,
There is,
put
okay.
this in, you know, for 1 month, and we'll do some checking. And
Yeah, I was gonna ask for a time limit because, you know, people should be able to enjoy the late fall and whatever, but it just would be embarrassing to me for Warren County to be the only bike trail from Westchester to Maine that doesn't allow dogs on the bikeway.
Thank you,
With
Fred.
that, I
You
conclude.
made your point to us,
Thank you.
and I appreciate that.
I guess I did.
I'll end it with Mr. Dickinson.
I think that, Dr. Centrally's suggestion about speed on the bikeway might be something we wanna look into as well.
Right.
It is difficult with bicycles when you're on the trail if they're going very fast, 'cause you can't hear them coming. I mean, they come out of
Exactly.
nowhere.
Yep.
So, my thought is that maybe there are some areas where there are some dangerous curves where you don't have any sight visibility that we may wanna have cautionary
Okay,
signs, not.
all right, thank you. So I'll move back to Ms. Wood. Are you gonna make the motion to
No,
just table this for 1 month?
I think that's a
until-
very good observation, because some cyclists have whistles, and they whistle. Professional cyclists usually have a whistle if they're going fast. They know they're gonna be going fast. And that's a very good observation, because that's how this accident happened in New York. And we don't even wanna think about that here. But with all of our great minds together in all the other states that allow bikes on the bike trail, I think we can solve it. And I was looking for a time frame, so a month is good.
All right, Fred, thank you.
Thank you.
Do I get a second on that? Mr. Simpson, all in favor, we'll table it for 1 month, and we'll look into it this month.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, last item on referrals, King School could not make it, today, but I expect them to come next month to give us an update on their crossing. And that's it for Parks and Rec.
Okay, we'll move right into the DPW part, and Jeff, I'll let you go ahead on overtime report.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Overtime report is on page 1. You'll notice we do have the typical increase in September, mostly due to Balloon Festival. On page 2 begins the fuel report. As of right now, we're still in good shape for fuel, in our projections through the end of the year. The first resolution request I have is on page 8. This is a request to amend Resolution 599 of 2012. This is a resolution that was passed by the board to, essentially, transfer funds out of our motor fuel, operations budget. Any remaining funds at the end of the year would be transferred into a capital reserve for motor fuel systems, with the intent of that reserve to be able to build up a capital, fund for future, major upgrades or replacements of our fuel systems. As you know, we have 8 motor fuel sites across the county. We recently did a $300,000 project, which is actually still segments of which are underway to upgrade fuel systems and pumps and piping and some of our environmental controls. The intent of this amendment would be to change some of the language in that amendment, in that Resolution 599, to allow the Treasurer's Office to not only take any leftover any leftover appropriations, but also any balance remaining from revenues over the expenditures. So, to date, they have only been taking funds out of the leftover expenditures columns. We want them to take the additional revenue balance as well. And we hope that that'll generate about $30,000 a year into the reserve, and over the course of a 10-year period, have a few $100,000 for major upgrades that are certainly coming on a periodic basis.
All right, Mr. Sokol, make that move. Ms. Wood, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Okay, the next request is on page 11. This is to increase the capital project for Blair Road over Millbrook, H342. This is a federal aid project. This is a budgeted amount for this year for our local match. It's time to move this local match into the project as we move into right-of-way acquisitions, construction, and construction inspection phases for next year.
Mr. Simpson? Anybody second it? For Ms. Vanslo? Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, don't have any items for the committee to look at, but I wanted to give the committee an update on a particular property issue we're having. There's been some recent, articles in the paper and letters written to the paper. So I just want to give the committee an opportunity to ask any questions you may have. I'll give you a brief summary. In 2001, we issued a sign permit for the tire warehouse on Quaker Road. Quaker Road, the county has a very broad right-of-way. We allow businesses to move their signs forward into the county right-of-way, because that right-of-way is so broad. In 2001, that permit was issued. Tire warehouse installed a sign in the county right-of-way on the back slope of the ditch line. At some point between then and now, they had installed additional features in the county right-of-way without permit or review or authorization from DPW. Those included a flagpole, a couple spruce trees, and a flower bed. Some of those features were placed in front of the adjacent property owner, not in front of Tire Warehouse, but also in front of the adjacent property, which is now Wine Merchants. We were recently contacted this summer by Wine Merchants. They wish to move their sign forward into the right-of-way, as all the other businesses have on Quaker Road. But their concern is that there's other features there that are blocking the way. We made contact with Tire Warehouse, Mr. McCall. Initially, he agreed to remove those features that are in front of the adjacent property owner, but that was back in July. He has not made motion to make that happen. We've been trying to be patient, and certainly the Wine Merchants have been patient with resolving this. We have sent letters to Mr. McCall indicating that he must remove those features from in front of the adjacent property, and he must also account for the additional features he installed and do an amendment to his existing permit in front of his property to account for the additional tree and other features he installed without authorization. So we're at a point now where it's likely that we'll either have to hope that Mr. McCall will remove the features he installed in front of this adjacent property, or the county will have to do so. Our next step is to write him a letter with a deadline, and the county certainly has authority to remove those features in the county right-of-way. I'd rather not do that, but if I have to, that would be in conjunction with the county attorney's office. We'll be working towards that end. But this is coming to a head here, I think, in the coming weeks. The wine merchant's owner, Mr. Rob Doohan, has been very patient, but he does want to move his sign forward, and I think in a matter of fairness, we should be able to accommodate that. So I wanted to give the committee a brief update. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone may have on that, or if you'd like to meet with me after the meeting, I can share with you any details you would like. But I think it's going to come to a head here coming up to the next board meeting, or even be resolved before the next board meeting.
Stickers?
I have two things. I have been mildly involved in this situation. The features that you're talking about were put in by the two neighbors cooperatively, McCall and the previous owner of the wine shop. Together they put those things in there. They're not necessarily McCall's, and they're not necessarily his problem to take them out. The only other thing I'd like to say is, it makes me nervous when we get involved in these personal vendetta things with private citizens. I think Jeff has done a good job explaining the situation and the problems, but I'm very reluctant in my town business, and I carry that over to the county, to get involved when you have two people in the private sector arguing. I think it's pertinent that Jeffrey state the county's position, but I think it's up to the two people who are arguing to settle this thing, not us.
Right. Mr. Naylor?
I understand Dennis's position, but it seems to me that a permit wasn't obtained to do this, and in light of that, it would make sense that we insist that it come out. But if we do, and if we take it out, do we bill Mr. McCall for the cost of doing that, or?
I believe we have authority or legal right to do so, but I defer to Martin on that.
That's my understanding. We do have the authority to do that.
Why would you bill McCall though? It's in front of the neighbors.
The, again,
I could maybe address that, a little bit of the ownership issue.
go ahead.
In speaking to Mr. McCall, he did admit that, yes, he placed that there, and I asked him if he owned those, and he indicated that yes, and he'd want to retain them. Initially, he said he would remove them, and even bring in a tree spade, hoe-mounted tree spade to relocate the existing spruce tree. I'll send around a couple photos just so you're familiar with it. And that he would want to retain that flagpole. Now, either he owns it and removes it, or he claims he doesn't own it and will remove it and he won't charge anybody. But the bottom line is, I think it's a matter of fairness from our standpoint, and from talking with the wine merchants, they've indicated that they've tried to come to some agreement, but they don't think that that's possible regarding any of those things staying there. So this has been ongoing since early July. I know we're getting towards the end of the construction season where the wine merchants would be able to construct their sign base in the right of way. So that's my concern, is, that we are getting to a point where I think the patience is wearing thin on the two property owners. And I agree with Supervisor Dickinson. I don't like being in the middle of this at all. I'm just trying to treat both owners fairly and give all the owners of property along Quaker Road equal opportunity to place, critical signage for their business in front of their business. So I'm just trying to be fair to all of those owners.
Mr. Dickinson?
I understand that, Jeff, we've talked before about this. I'm just reluctant. If it's in front of the wine merchants and it's in county right of way, it seems to me, if I were the wine merchant, that I would have the right to go out there and remove it. I think it's his obligation. I'd be very reluctant to have the county move it and charge McCall. That I would not do. And I have no issue or argument with the fact that, and I have advised Mr. McCall of this, that he does not have a permit for what he did, and that he should definitely apply for and get a permit for that work that he's done in front of his business.
Well, it looks like it's gonna be one of those, let's give it the last, letter like you suggest, and see if everything can work out, but if not, we're gonna have to turn it over to the attorney and, move on. I hope both business people use some sense and work together, and, it's important for one business to have a sign visible. I mean, anybody in business knows signs help you a lot, so. Okay, so if there's no other decision on that, we'll just leave it in the hands of Jeff, and, we'll move forward with that. Anybody else somebody else had a hand up?
Kevin.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin.
I just got a question. When we issue these permits, do we ever follow up to make sure that people follow the way it should be?
Yes,
I mean, somebody had to know that he was doing outside the permit. Why haven't we told him?
I'll be honest with you. We issue probably over 100 of these permits each year, whether they're driveway permits or other things. And we do follow up initially with the construction, but we don't, do annual reviews of the thousands of permits that we've issued. So we wouldn't know necessarily unless somebody just happened to notice that, oh, there's a new tree there, with all the permits and all of the properties that this would occur. I presume that in 2001, when this permit was issued, that there was a review done with the initial sign installation. And I also presume that the other work was done without anybody's knowledge, but that was done, years ago. Now we're going 13, 14 years ago.
Seems to me like there's gotta be some follow-up on these things, and, if it's been sitting there for 10 or 15 years, nobody said anything, and now we've got a neighbor dispute, like Dennis said, it appears to be a neighbor dispute. It just seems like we should try to avoid these as much as possible. And does our permit say you're limited to certain?
Yes. There's no doubt about it. The additional work that was done in the right-of-way was unauthorized and unpermitted.
And it never came to light until the neighbor?
No, and I'll tell you where things do come to light more frequently is if there's a safety concern. Now, all of this installation is on the back slope of the ditch line. It's a broad right-of-way. There are no safety concerns with anything that was installed, so
Didn't we
this
have
is...
another one on the same road, with somebody on the corner, or?
We have occasional issues like this, but, this one is unique in that the property owner, with the consent apparently of the previous owner of the wine merchant property, installed additional things in front of another property owner, so it goes more to a fairness thing for these two adjacent properties. So I'll work with Martin on a resolution here, and I'm sure I'll have an update for the committee if, by next month.
Okay, Jeff. Wait, one more question?
I think that point was made, quite well about how many years went by and about checking up on it. So I'd recommend that we hire some college students and give them the permit and have them follow up and make sure all the permits are being, done the way they were issued.
All right, thank you, Fred. All right, moving to the next item.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the, 2014 payment condition report. And I have two versions that I've passed out. One is the full version with the photo on top. The other is an executive summary. This is an annual report that we do. And, I brought Sean Raymond from my engineering division here with me. He's really the primary author, but it's a team effort of our DPW engineers.
Mr. Chairman.
I give this to you, you know, as a FYI of our current status. I don't. What I'll do also is I could put this out in email in a PDF form to the entire board, and, perhaps we can, I think in the past we've posted it to the county webpage, so I'll make sure that happens as well. If anyone would like a hard copy, just see me after the meeting, I'll make sure I get a hard copy to you. One unique thing that we've done this year is we've bumped our cycle ahead a little bit. We've completed a lot of construction this year. Normally, these reports are done in the beginning of December, so they don't reflect the current year of construction. We've actually updated this report to present day so that it reflects not only improvements since the last report, beginning of the summer of 2013, so it includes additional work we did in 2013, and then it includes virtually all of the construction work we did in 2014. The format is similar to what the board and the committee members have seen in the past. If you have any questions, please let me know. This is just for your information.
Kevin?
The bridge up in, Horkin, I don't see it on this project list for 2015, it's gonna be done this year.
The bridge work we keep on a separate list, so at the end of the report, you'll see the 2015 road project list, okay? That doesn't include the bridge work, that's on a different list, but it is, as of right now, it is, was presented to the budget team and discussed in the budget meetings.
This year or next year?
For next year.
No leftover funds available?
We could probably scrounge the funding together. The problem with that bridge is the underlying dam that's owned by the town. The dam is undergoing final review with the DEC, and we're waiting for a determination from the DEC whether the dam will have to be modified.
No report on that yet?
No.
It was submitted a week ago, and, I plan on calling them next week and find out where they're at on that.
I thought it was done this summer.
The LaBerge, in their study, said that, and they sent a letter to, the county stating that the opening, the hydraulic opening of that dam will not change, that we could proceed with the bridge. But I would be cautious, I would, after talking, I would wait for the DEC to,
I did.
or not. I don't think I would wanna bank on the bridge's assessment. As a
Yeah, no.
county supervisor, I would love to, as a town supervisor, I'm confident in our engineering group, but as a county supervisor, I've gotta say, we need to be a little cautious on what DEC.
So you're okay with it?
And I'm okay,
And we won't hear from any of your town board?
Huh.
they're very active, they understand the process.
Thank you, Mr. Sims, for that. All right.
Okay, on
Mr.
those-
Taylor, you got your hand up?
Well, just a question, a different subject really, but this chart that you have on page 4, county, road in each town.
Okay.
Do you have a chart similar to that has the amount of snow and ice, that is done by the towns, the county roads that is done by the towns?
Yes,
Broken down like that?
Yes, that's a chart that we put into the budget, and I do have a breakdown for that, for snow and ice for the snow and ice contracts, yes. What this denotes is, you know, all county-owned roads in these townships. It doesn't denote who's doing maintenance, on those during snow and ice. That's a completely separate.
Could I get a copy of that?
Yes.
Certainly.
As was mentioned on the last page of both the report and the executive summary is the preliminary 2015 highway projects list. The top part of that, list is the 1.65 approximately million. That accounts for the CHIPS dollars we're anticipating for 2015. That is the state Consolidated Highway Improvement Program. In addition to that, as reported by the budget officer at the last budget committee meeting, there's an additional $350,000 penciled into the budget for next year, and that we've accounted for one reconstruction project in the town of Johnsburg on Peaceful Valley Road. The additional list of projects below that line are not in the current budget, but those are what we see as coming up in the years to come.
Hey, Ron. I apologize, I have to leave, and, Mr. Conover is gonna continue the meeting for me, so I have to leave. Okay. Thank you.
You're all in trouble now.
Yeah, that's what we thought we were done.
Okay, so I put this, both the condition report and the road project list out really just for the committee's information. And if you have any comments or questions, please contact me and I'd be happy to meet with you or answer any questions you have. Okay. The next item on the agenda, I just have under pending items. I am anticipating sending a budget amendment, either through out of committee or directly to finance, relating to an award of an FAA grant that we recently received. This is for a 1-ton plow truck. So what we'll need to do is an amendment to the budget to receive those funds from the FAA, and then we'll be ordering that truck and getting a new plow truck at the airport. So I'll be sending that to finance. Under items of interest, I have a few photos I'll send around of some recent county paving. We've got County Route 30, Schroon River Road. That was a unique project. We actually did a cold-in-place recycling process to begin with a contractor, and then did a asphalt overlay. And we have Haviland Road, Diamond Point Road, Umsteadville Road, and East River Drive in Lucerne. We are virtually complete with our paving projects. We have one small project on North Bay Road, on a county road, and then we have a couple town projects to wrap up. But we had good weather, and we kept on schedule very well this year, so we have a lot of wiggle room here at the final days of the season. Also under items of interest, I wanted to let the committee know that the extension letters for the solid waste handling, or hauling and disposal contracts have gone out. We are anticipating that each of the contractors will extend. They have received those letters, and you know, once we receive those back, those contracts will extend till to 2015, end of 2015. Okay, then last item on items of interest are a couple MOUs on page 12 and 13. Wanted to make the committee aware of these. These are MOUs I signed with Jim Liebram, S Soil and Water. He has some grant funding that we can recoup some of the county DPW costs for maintenance and improvements on county roads. So this seemed like a no-brainer. I talked with Martin about whether we should go ahead and execute these so we could get underway and and he thought that that was, a good idea. I just wanna make the committee aware that we are entering into these MOUs with Soil and Water. These are all gain, this is work that we'd be otherwise using county dollars for, and, instead we're able to apply through Soil and Water for some grant funds that they have available. Okay, Mr. Chairman, the last item I'd like to do is, request an executive, committee to review the performance of an unnamed contractor.
We have a request for an executive session. We have a motion by Bud, a second vote from Matt, to go into executive session. All those in favor of going into executive session for the items stated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are in executive session. Thank you. Alrighty. We're out of executive session. Is there any other business to come before the committee? There being none. Motion to adjourn. Dennis, Evelyn, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
No action taken. If there was action taken, don't you think it would have been addressed?